Submit to you is the parallel to what we just read, and that will take us over to John. Next time I will pick up this material in John. Okay. Just by the by, I always like to look at the ambience here of things, and I don't see anything. Luke 15, tax collectors and sinners came to him, and the Pharisees and scribes complained. Always they're complaining. This is tax collectors and sinners. To my mind, I told you, code for Herodians. The Herodians are the tax collectors. And of course, who are the Pharisees? Code for the James part. This is 15. I'm looking at the ambience of 16. I have to move on. Chapter 16, he said to his disciples, a certain rich man had a manager. These are economic parables here about baths of oil, and unjust manager parables about these things. And in my book, I don't have time to show it to you now, I told you that the Notniban, the rich man, one of the people who fed the city for 18, 20, 30, I forget how many years before the fall of the temple, put the things in the granaries, also made rain. Certainly not an historical person who did those things, though he may have been credited. A very, very rich man. He fills a certain number of cisterns with water for the temple. And he borrows the money from a rich lord to do this. I forget, I've got the whole thing. It's in several Talmudic chapters. And we get the whole numbers and how many baths or how many cisterns he filled. And I think that's paralleling this materials here. I can't go into it with you here, but it's in my book. You can look at it. It's extremely important. That's why I call the whole section on the New Testament code Notniban and Nicodemus. Notniban is the Talmudic character, the rich man. And he has a friend, remember I told you? Ben Kalba Sabur, also a rich man. But this is a code, obviously. Now, Sabur means filled or immersed. Kalba means dog. These are all rich men at this period in the Talmud. Now, look here. Now there was a certain rich man, Luke, before that, Luke 16, 14, about the righteous and the unrighteous and the Pharisees who were greedy, scoffed at him, and you know they justify themselves before men, but God knows your heart, for the law and the prophets who are until John, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. We'll just leave that for the moment. But Jesus says here in line 17 in Luke, as he says in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew, I think you'll find it in Matthew 5:18, I think, I'm not sure. Easier for the sky and earth to vanish than one bit of the law to fail. In other words, as Matthew puts it, not one jot of the law or tittle of the law will disappear until all these things are accomplished. Matthew. This is Luke's variation of it much later here. Anyway, let's get to the thing I want to get to. Now there was a certain rich man. Certain is always a very important adjective, like some. You have to always watch it. And he was clothed in purple and fine linen, and making merry every day in luxury. And there was a certain poor man, not beggar. The word is poor man. Poor is the name of the sect that followed James the Ebionites. And it's going to be very important in John because Judas Iscariot complains about the women oiling and washing Jesus' feet and said, why wasn't this sold and given to the poor? Judas Iscariot says. And what does Jesus reply? The poor you have with me always, but you do not always have me. Well, that's pretty arrogant. That's like, again, Dionysus speaking. You know, yes, kiss my feet, oil my feet, do all these things, you know, I deserve it, I am a god, man. You know, that's how Dionysus would talk in Greco-Hellenistic literature. We like that. All these aphorisms are very attractive, but when you analyze them, it's not nice. And it isn't, you say, well, why can't I glorify Jesus? Well, go ahead if you want. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying it's not nice. But in this case, Judas Iscariot's correct. But they heap abuse on Judas Iscariot. I'm not saying this is a historical episode. What I'm saying is there's an argument about the poor, James's community and so on. But keep that in mind, that it's the poor. Now this is the poor man, and Lazarus is introduced to us. Now we're going to meet Lazarus in the Gospel of John. And Lazarus is going to have two sisters, Mary and Martha. And we'll go over that next time. But let me see if I can do this one first. And he was laid at the porch, being full of sores. There's your full again. And desiring to be filled or satiated. The sabua thing. Now, I do this in much more detail, which is why that book went on to 1,000 pages. From the crumbs which fell from the table of the rich man. Oh, there it is. The crumbs which fall from the table, that's the Mark thing. Now, it's been totally revised into a new episode, mixed with Talmudic materials about Ben Kaba Sabua. And I'll explain to you how. And even the dogs, oh, they don't come and eat the crumbs under the table. What do? Not door, I don't like to yawn. It's tiring. I used to yawn in all my classes. When I was at college, I fell asleep promptly at the beginning of every class and woke up at the end. Because it was wintertime and the heat was always on in the classrooms and the windows were always closed, and I'd go in and go, bonk. And I'd wake up, what do you say today? So I don't mind people. I try to keep people awake. That's one of my great attempts, because I know I always fell asleep. And that's why I try to keep people awake. And part of keeping people awake is to entertain them, not to be too dull, which is why I maybe overdo it on the entertainment side, because of my college experience. I slept through every class from my sophomore year to my senior. I couldn't sleep through my calculus classes because I would have flunked every test, but every other class, literature, things, philosophy, you name it, I slept. I liked it, but I slept. Anyway, desiring to be filled from the crumbs that yet even the dogs came and licked his feet. Okay. Now, I claim, and I give it to you in my book, that this is based on the Talmudic definition of Ben Kaba Sabua's name. They say, oh, why was he called Ben Kaba Sabua, this rich man? You see, there's a certain rich man dressed in purple and fine linen. Why was he called Ben Kaba Sabua? Because